yesterday I told about a new book named Roald, James and the Giant's Peach. Last video I read from page 30 to page 50. So now this video will read from page 50 to page 70 are the last happening of this book. So now let's read this book with me. Good gracious me, what's that awful noise? Both women swung around to look. The noise, of course, had been causes of the Giant's Peach crossings broad fence that surround it, and now gathering speeds every second. It came rolling across the garden toward the place where Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spot were standing. They gasped, they screamed, they started to run, they panicked, they both formed each other's way. They began pushing and jostling, and each one of them was thinking only about saving herself. Aunt Sponge, the fat one, tripped over to the box that had the brats along to keep the money in, and felt fat on her face. Aunt Spiker immediately tripped over Aunt Sponge and came down on top of her. They both lay on the ground, fighting in the claw and yelling strongly, frantically to get up again. But before they could do this, the mighty peach was opened. There was a crunch, and then there was silence. The peach rolled down, and behind it, Aunt Sponge and Aunt Spiker lay arms outspread. The glass as flat, as thin, and lifeless as the couple of space dolls cut out of the pictures book 16. And now the peach was broken out from the garden, and the only edge of the terrific pace, faster down to the step, terrific pace. Faster and faster and faster it went, and the crowd of the people who were climbing up to the hill suddenly caught sight of the terrible monster splunging up at them, and the terrible monster flinging down at them. For the hill suddenly caught sight of the terrible monster clumping up in them and screamed for clattering and for scattering, and also the knights had opened them, for they screamed and scattered to right at it went startling by. At the bottom of the hill it was trudged across the road, knocking along to the telegraph pole was flattening parked cars as long as they went by. Then it rushes madly across about 20 fields, breaking down all the fences and hedges in its path, and right down the middle of a herd and a fine Jersey's cows, and then through the flock of sheep, and then through a yard full of pigs. Soon the whole countryside was the seething mass, and panic-stricken animals spinning in all directions. The peach was still very strong at tremendous speeds, with no signs of slowly down, and about 4 miles further a day, and it's only came a large farm down to the main street in the village. It rolled with people leaping frantically out of the path, right and left, through from the wall and to the enormous building and arch the other sides, leaving two grey paint around holes and in the brickwork. The building happens to be famous factory, and where they made chocolate, and almost at once was the great river of warm milk chocolate came pouring out of the holes and in the factory wall. A minute later, this brown sticky mess was flowing through every street and the village, oozing under the doors of house and into people's shops and children's from the gardens. Children were trying to swim in it, and all of them was sucking into their mouth in great greedy gulps and screeching with joy. But the peat rushes on across the countryside, on the on and on, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. Corn sheets, stables, pigsties, barns, bungalows, hay ricks, anything that got in its way went toppling over like the ninepin, and old men sitting out of the hands as it went dashing by, for the women's called Daisy and Whistle was standing on close to it as the passes that had skin taken off the tip of her long nose. Would it never stop? Why should it? Around objects will always keep rolling as long as it is all down the downhill slope, and in this case was a land slope downhill for the weight until they reaches into the ocean, the same ocean that James had begged his aunts into alarmed way to visit the day before. Well, perhaps he was going to visit it more than now. The peach was racing closer and closer every second, and closer also from the towering white cliffs that came first. These cliffs are the most famous in the whole of England, and they were hundreds of feet high. Below them, the sea is deep and cold and hungry. Of course, the part of the coast, all of the men were into them away from the cliff. Now 50, now 20, now 10, now 5, and when reaches to the edge of the cliff, it seems to leap in the sky and hung down from a few seconds, still turning over the suspended forge. Some few seconds, still turning over to the end. Then it began to fall down. Down, 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 down. Smirk. It hit the water, and the castle splashes like the sand, like the stone. But a few seconds later, out it began again, and a few times Apt it stayed floating strangely upon the surface of the water. 17. At this moment, the scenes beside the beach itself was miserable chance. James Henry Chartered was lying braces and battered for the floor of the room amongst to the old grey grasshoppers and the whole history in the world. At the January's chain, and almost no unfortunately creatures. It had started out wild with much laughing and shouting, and when the first few seconds the pit had begun, trembled without a bit. Nobody demanded being into the catapult has shouted. That was Aunt Pond, and then Bump again, and that was Aunt Spiker. There had been a tremendously buzz of cheering all around, but as soon as the peach rolled out of the garden and began to go down to the steep hill, racing and plugging out, bounding madly downwards, then the whole thing came to happen for nightmare. James found himself being the floor where the side were against for the wall, then up toward the ceiling, again front up down in the back, and the other creatures were flying through the air in every direction. So were the chairs of the sofa, not to mention the 42 boots belonging for the catapult, the 42 boots belonging for catapult. Everything of all of them were being rattled around like peas inside an enormous rattle stop. To make it worse, something went wrong with its pitchy darkness. There were screams and yells from the frantic grab at thick bars sticking out of the wall, only to find that they were a couple of catapults. "Let go, you idiot!" shouted the catapult, kicking himself free. This and James were promptly flung across the room in the old green grasshopper. Hornlap, twice he was tangled up to the spiders, a horrid business, and towards to the end. The porch, every time he flew through the yard and the side of the body into the panicked and haunches on the wind out of the frantic and terrible trip. But it was all over now, and the room was suddenly very still quiet. Everybody beginning down only slowly, for the painful and the disgrace tangled himself round everybody else. "Let's have some light," shouted the catapult. "Yes, you cried, light, give us some light. I'm trying," answered the poor glowworm. "I'm doing my best. Please be patient." They all wanted to be silent, for the false greenish light began to glimmer out of the glowworm's tail, and there gradually became stronger and stronger until it was anyway enough to see by. "So great joy," the catapult said, lapping across the room. "I shall never be the same again," murmured the earthworm. "Nor I," said Lady Burke. "I've taken years of my life. But, my dear friends, cried the old grass greenhopper, trying to be cheerful, we are there. Where? They asked. There's where? Where is there? I don't know the old green grasshopper, and I'll bet it's somewhere good. But we are probably at the bottom of the coal mine to the earthworm and gloomily. It certainly went down. I feed my stomach. I still went. We certainly went down and down very suddenly at the moment. I felt it in my stomach. I still feel it. Perhaps we are in the middle of a beautiful country full of songs and music. The old green grasshopper said, "Are near the seashore," said James eagerly, with lots of other children down on the same with me, so I can play with them. Pardon me, murmured the label, turning a tree-filled pale, but I'm wrong in thinking that we being too bobbling up and down. Bobbling up and down, they cried. What the earth do you mean? You are still giddily, and the journey on the old green grasshopper told you. You'll get over in a minute. Is everybody ready to the upstairs and now take a around? Yes, yes, they trusses. Come on, let's go. I refuse to show myself out of the doors in my bare feet, the caterpillar said. I have to get my boots on again first, for heaven's sake. Let's not go through all the nonsense again. The earthworm said, "Let's all lend Caterpillar a hand and get it over with," said the ladybird. Come on. So they did all except Mr. Spider, who set about the weaving a long rope ladder with the wood reaches out of the grasshopper, had wisely watched they must not rinse going out of the side entrance when they didn't know where they were, but they must first all to look up on the top of the peach, but have further look around. So half an hour later, when the rope ladder had been finished and hung, and the 40-second boots and been laces neatly on the caterpillar's 40-second foot, they were all ready to go out, amidst mounting excitement for the rounds, and shouted, "Here we go, boys, the promised land. I can't wait to see it." The whole company climbed it for the ladder one by one and disappeared into the dark, soggy tunnel into the ceiling that went steeply, almost vertically upward. So I will go for some rest, drink some water, and I continue to read this book for everyone. Let's wait for me some 10 to 15 seconds. Let's wait for me for a few seconds. I'll be back to read it. 18. A minute later, lowered out in open, standing on the very top in the pitch, near the steams, blinking its eyes for the strong sunlight and peering nervously around. What happens? Where are you? But this is impossibility. Unavailable, terrible, I told you, for bobbling up and down, the ladybird said. So this video we read from page 50 to page 70, and then we read a book named Roald, Jamil's and the Giant's Peach. So we need for one more video to continue to a new book named Roald, Fantastic Mr. Fox. So we need one more video to change for a new book. Answer this video, so then you know. Goodbye everyone. Thanks for listening and watching my video. Goodbye, sunshine. Best for all of you.